Welcome back, guys. So doing something a little bit different for this week's video, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. So Max, my daughter Madison, and I are headed to downtown St. Louis for the 29th annual Soulard Purina Pet Parade. And as you can see, Max and I are dressed alike, and I'm wearing a Poodle Mask, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, in case you didn't know, the Soulard Pet Parade is the largest costume dog parade in the world. They set a world record in 2012, and it's been growing rapidly ever since. So the first stop we made was at the Goody Bag Tents. This is where vendors hand out free products, and this year was a little lighter than usual with no treats being given, but unfortunately a lot of companies are just cutting back on things like that. And you can see a lot of the homes are getting ready for the Soulard Mardi Gras Parade, which is ironically the second largest in the nation, the largest ones obviously being in the New Orleans area. Registration for walking the parade route started at 11, so we headed over there and paid a $10 donation, which goes to the Open Door Animal Shelter, which is a great charity. And as you can see, Max was super stoked to see what was in this bag. And I'm very happy to announce that Max and I were one of 20 finalists selected for the pet contest, and we could really use your vote. You can vote daily from February 22nd through March 6th, and I will leave a link in the description if you're interested in voting. And it was really great to see not just dogs, but owners as well embracing the Mardi Gras spirit, especially this family with 3 standard poodles that were meticulously dyed and groomed. The owner said they were getting ready for an upcoming competition. That's all actual dog hair, grown out and carefully sculpted with nothing else added but color. Absolutely amazing. So at this point we walked to the beginning of the parade route. You can see the lead float there. And we decided since the actual parade wasn't going to start for at least another hour, we would just walk around and mingle with some of the dog owners. This lady definitely had the right idea. She got creative and painted stripes on her Shar-Pei and put him in this little circus cage. Very, very cool. And here's Madison and Max sitting down to have a little rest on the sidewalk. And no, I'm not one of those parents that gives their dog beer. This was really cool too. I love seeing these other standard poodles and just how awesome they are groomed. Max was definitely taking a liking to this dog, and I mean, wow, can you blame him? Now I also wanted to point out how perfect the weather was for this event. It was 64 degrees and sunny, not too hot, not too cold, just absolutely perfect. And if you're familiar with the weather in St. Louis in February, you know that it can be very unpredictable. As a matter of fact, 4 days prior to the parade, we actually had snow and ice. So the fact that things just turned out this way, I was just so thankful. Pretty much everywhere you looked, there was a dog in costume. It's just something that you don't see every day. And I highly recommend, if you're a dog lover and you're in the St. Louis area next year, to mark this on your calendar. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Check out this little pint-sized punk rocker. Now, if you are planning on going to this parade, you want to kind of fine-tune your costume weeks in advance before the actual parade, because things around town start to get very bleak as far as costume ideas, and people will buy up anything purple, gold, and green. So usually what we end up doing is, if it's last minute, we will go to the dollar store and improvise, or just make our stuff from scratch. People always love to stop me and tell me how big Max is as a dog, and I tell them actually he's not really that big. Look here, this size comparison when you see this Great Dane. Now he's bending down just to lick Max. And look at this guy here, he's even bigger. These are 2 of the biggest Great Danes that I have ever seen. This little Bulldog here was celebrating his birthday today, and you couldn't ask for a better place to do it. One of the most popular breeds at the parade is the Golden Doodle. Now, people really are embracing this breed, and that was pretty evident based on the amount that we saw here today. Now here's a 360 pan about 30 minutes prior to the parade start. You can see the amount of people that had gathered. It's just almost elbow to elbow. I mean, just look at that, as far as you can see people. I was so proud of Max. He was really hanging in there. He was so good. And here's a good look at his costume that we made. He's just got this homemade vest and the green shirt, just like I was wearing. Just something simple that we put together, but it had a big impact. So my drink of choice for the day was Bud Light Next, the new zero carb Bud Light beer. And well, I gotta say, if you're a fan of carbonated water, I guess you'll love Bud Light Next. And I gotta be honest, I have never seen so many well-behaved dogs in one area at one time. There was no growling, no fighting. It was just one huge collective love fest of dogs and owners. Now at this point, the parade's about ready to start. The anticipation is growing. Everyone is just getting really, really excited. You can see these dogs here just cannot wait for this thing to start. And finally, the parade starts to move, and you get to see these thousands of people lined up on both sides of the street that are just screaming and wanting you to throw beads and wanting to pet your dog. It's just the most wonderful thing to be a part of. To be able to bring so much joy to these kids that maybe never even get to see some of these breeds of dogs, let alone to pet them, it's just so rewarding. Now, I mentioned in the beginning that I was wearing a Poodle Mask for part of this day. I would put it on only at special times when people want to take a picture, ask me to put it on, and then I wore it for half of this parade. Now, it's hard to tell, but basically while I'm filming, I'm wearing this mask, but it was pretty hard to do because of the limited visibility. So at a certain point, about halfway through, I ended up taking it off because I kept running into these two large gentlemen to the front of me, and my daughter told me that might be a good idea if I would take it off, because a couple times they turned around and they looked like they were going to pound me, and I didn't even catch those looks. But unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of video of me wearing the mask because I just kind of got caught up in the day. You can imagine what that looked like, this sea of people walking down this parade route, and then there's me wearing this poodle head with my dog that looked exactly the same. Here are some of St. Louis's finest. My daughter works for the City of St. Louis Police Department, so these are some of her co-workers that recognized her, and it was just really cool for them to see her at the parade that day. Here's another look at just the sheer number of people that were in the parade and on the sides of the street, and if you look down in front, it's just a sea of people. And of course, Max was just loving all this attention. And he is really into blondes. I mean, I guess he's got a type just like everybody else. But he did end up getting her digits and texting her the next day. And it was so awesome to see this turnout. You know, everybody's been so affected by the pandemic, and just to be able to have all these kids be able to see these amazing breeds of dogs and to touch them, it was just a perfect day. It was just so fun to hear that a lot of these kids had never even touched a poodle before in their entire life. And big props to the City of St. Louis for putting this on. They did a fantastic job, and one of the highlights of the year for sure. So we finally made it to the end of the parade, and that's where it really starts to get congested. There's just so many people everywhere, and it kind of feels like the actual Mardi Gras minus the debauchery. Now, of course, I couldn't pass up buying a couple of $1 Jello shots from these very lovely inebriated ladies. I mean, who doesn't love Jello shots? Now, I told them they were going to be on YouTube, but something tells me that they're never going to remember this conversation, since they couldn't even make change from a $10 bill. Now, once the parade is over and the route ends, one of the cool things at the end of that route is the Wiener Dog Races. The only bad thing is that if you're in the parade, the seating now is all full for the races, so it was really hard for us to actually see what was going on because we didn't get to the seating areas in advance. But you can kind of see here is part of this indoor little racetrack that they have here, and the Wiener Dogs would run down there, and the place was just absolutely packed. But unfortunately, we had just gotten here a little bit too late, and it had already started. But you know, people take their Wiener Dog racing pretty seriously. Now, at this point, it was getting later in the afternoon, so we just kind of sat on the grandstands and watched them actually take down that racetrack area. But eventually, we all got pretty hungry, and all the pet-friendly restaurants with patios were just too crowded, so we decided to call it a day. Now, even though we were leaving, there were still people filing in because the party was going to keep going on all night. Alright guys, well I really hope you enjoyed this tour of our experience at the 2022 Soulard Purina Pet Parade. Maybe next year we'll see you there. And as always, if you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps out. Alright guys, I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching.